Hello and welcome to the show. Today's episode is another one of those out and about episodes, so expect to hear some noise in the background. Today, I'd like to look at something that I've already spoken about time and time again on the podcast, but even for listeners of the podcast, unfortunately, they don't seem to get the point, and it's something I'm going to repeat again today. For those of you who've listened, I think for the past 3 or 4 episodes, you'd have caught on that there was a webinar, a training session, online training session that was organized by the Foundry and the Nest. They are both sister organizations, innovation hubs, tech hubs in Lagos, and of course, their aim is similar to mine, which is pretty much to make sure that entrepreneurs, self-employed people, business owners are enabled to do the number one thing that makes it possible for us to carry on doing the crafts, the trade, the profession, the whatever it is that we love, and that is sales. Because if you love making pottery, if you love organizing parties, if you love doing carpentry, whatever it is that you love to do, if you do not know how to sell, how to promote yourself, how to convert all the interactions that you're having with people, then it's all going to come to naught. You're only going to be left with a nice, fancy habit. Sorry, not habit, what's the word? Hobby. Yeah, you're going to be left with a fancy hobby. For those of you who like taking pictures and planning parties and maybe who like drawing art, you're going to be left with a fancy hobby because you don't have anyone to buy the wonderful works of art that you create. And for the rest of you who have gone to school, like architect brothers and sisters and medical doctors, that's for those of you who are going to choose to set up your own medical practice, you're going to be left with nothing but a fancy degree because you're done with that wonderful master's in architecture. You've come back from abroad and you can't just make your architecture practice work. Okay, maybe you're not left with a fancy degree because at least you can get a job as working for somebody else. So, where was I? Okay, anyway, so I've said on the podcast time and time again that one of the reasons why we should be why we should take part in networking activities is not to go there and to pitch everyone that we come across, but rather we should be trying to get a sense of who is at the venue, the people that are there, trying to figure out who is there, what their interests are, and it's only after that we're going to be able to determine who we should be building relationships with and who we should be building alliances with. Now, the reason why I remember this today is because after this training session that I handled for the Foundry and for Nest, I've been making the rounds, getting in touch with the folks who, the cohort who attended the class, trying to make sure that everybody got value out of it. And surprisingly, lots of the students there who came for the session, okay, maybe not lots, because it's only 2 days after the event, and I think about 3 or 4 people have tried to sell me on stuff. And a lot of them are turning around and now trying to sell me on their products and or their services. And I think they kind of missed part of what was said during the training seminar, because the training seminar was from outreach to conversion. That was the point of that was the title of the seminar. That's strategies for building sales. And one of the things that I tried to point out during the seminar was how you shouldn't approach people until you have a vague idea that they might be a potential user or they might be potentially interested in your product or your service. And even though we've just finished this session, you have people turning around and trying to sell to me, the tutor, without even doing the basic stuff that I taught them, which is you should qualify opportunities when you're with people. Nobody asks me if I want the service, if I need the service. I mean, you're turning around and you're trying to get me to promote your dog services when I don't have a dog, I'm not a dog lover. Really, what's the rationale in that? And that's also another reason why some of us are engaged in business and our friends and family members, in quotes, don't want to patronize us, and we think that people don't mean well for us or people are not being supportive. The reason why they're not being supportive is because you're running around all the time trying to pitch to every single person, regardless of whether they're interested in it or not, whether they're in the mood to hear your spiel or not, and quite frankly, you're just going around being a nuisance. Because if this is how people are going to treat me, a total stranger, they're meeting for the first time, I can imagine how they must have completely cheesed off everybody in their personal space, their friends, their family members, Things like that. Um, anyway, it's such a shame. But anyway, when you go for these sorts of sessions, I think what you should be trying to do actually is to learn, because the whole point of this was education. But if you happen to attack these sorts of things as networking events, then the goal is not to try and pitch absolutely everyone that you meet. You don't know who it is that might be interested in your product or your service, so you should be going attending these things to try and figure out who is in the room, what are their interests, what are their business goals. It's only when you get a sense of this that you figure out how it aligns with yours. Then after that, you start making the pitch for who should be a potential business partner or things of that nature. Well, please do not attend business classes, networking sessions with the exclusive goal of trying to see where it is that you could find potential customers. That's not the point of that. That's not the point of that kind of get up. So if you're attending a BNI meeting, for instance, a business BNI is Business Networking International. You're attending a BNI meeting. The point is not to try and sell to everybody in the room. People who are showing up for those kinds of things are business owners like yourself, and they're looking for ways that they can expand their influence and expand their market. They didn't come there to buy whatever it is that you have to sell. So, okay, I think I've been going round and round. I might as well just wrap it up. So, well, that's the summary pretty much, and it's kind of disappointing that folks don't get the message. And so I guess this is one gospel that I'm going to have to keep preaching over and over and over and over again. If you're at a learning session, go there, learn, make some friends, use that as a networking opportunity. Networking opportunities are about looking, well, of course, you're trying to make some sales ultimately, yes, and you want to get people that will be your potential associates in the future. But engage in qualifying conversations first. At least know who the person is that you're talking to, what the person is interested in, the potential problems that the actual problems that they're facing in their personal and in their business lives. You need to figure out all these things and the nature of and the extent of the problems before you try and sell them something. Don't just assume that because everybody's potential target market for your dog food products or something like that. Don't just assume that everybody you run into at the networking session needs to buy dog food. I mean, at the very least, find out if they have a dog, find out if they love dogs. And it's possible that somebody has a dog and they love dogs, but as far as they're concerned, dogs are fine eating amala and eba and scraps and stuff that come from the family table. If they're happy with that, then they do not need your fancy dog food. So that's the end of my rant for today. I might as well, I guess I have to leave this place because the music is beginning to kick up. Oh yes, I'm at the party, by the way. So yeah, let me wrap this up. So thanks for your time and attention. Remember, you can subscribe for free, or rather please subscribe for free, since a lot of you are still using the web app. So iTunes, Stitcher, what else? Overcast, Google Podcast, Spotify. These are many more. Those are the places where you can find the podcast to subscribe to it. And it's Sales for the Nigerian Business Person. I'm your host, Tavishima, and yes, the name rhymes with Hiroshima. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.